Girlfriend is always disrespectful to my parents and they can't stand her anymore. This is my first girlfriend ever. We started dating 10 months ago after meeting on OKC and hit it off. We both struggle with social stuff. She tends to be better, but for whatever reasons her social anxieties come about in the oddest of moments, in the oddest of ways. It's been a mostly good ride, with quite a few bumps. Quite recently we've had some big fights over some serious shit, and some just plain stupid shit. We're working through those. It's tiring. But the main issue comes to my parents and how they see her. Her parents love me and think I'm a great guy. Generally say hi and speak with them briefly, even with a language barrier. My parents don't quite see her the same way. Of course, my dad is very chill and my mom is the more intense one, but there always seemed to be a bit of friction between my mom and her. My GF has remarked to me she thinks my mom doesn't like her and is always judging her, which my mom has told me is not the case when my GF comes over to my place. She sometimes says hi, but then we mostly go up to my room. I'd love to have more interaction with each of our families, but a lot of the time she just rebuffs it with not feeling comfortable. It almost feels as though she wants to control or monopolize my time with others. My mom has asked me before what she does to make me happy. I've always felt she has. Even when looking at it, we do have different interests in some ways. She wants to be a surgeon, I'm a software engineer. So where some of the real issues occur is on two particular disagreements we've had. The other day my GF was over at my house. I had gone to look for something for her downstairs, like a hard drive or something. While down there, my mom is cleaning out one of our old file cabinets that had some of my stuff in there. As I was looking for the drive and checking on some pizza I had in the oven, my mom asked me to help her sort through some stuff. Of course, I'm going to help her. This takes about 10 to 15 minutes or so, and my GF is up in my room just by herself, not interacting with anyone. She comes down later clearly upset, asks where I am, doesn't even look or speak to my parents, takes some pizza, and goes back to my room. I lingered down there a little bit longer before returning and having a fight with my GF over this. She says I left her up there for ages and was rude and inconsiderate. She felt I should have told her I was helping my mom out, and that she considered this her time because I was done with my homework and was going to spend some time with her. This always bugged me, but I agreed to let her know if something like that was going to change. This was also the first fight my parents took notice of. Another fight we had was recently. We spent a weekend at a hotel and my GF left her car at my parents' place. It was on the street, covering part of the mailbox. But not enough space for the mailman to fully pull all the way up. He won't deliver the mail if he doesn't have space. My parents didn't notice until the next day and my dad sent me a text saying, "Hey, could you guys come to fix this?" I thought it was a simple thing as we'd go up there before we headed to the city later that day. My GF has a very different reaction. She got very grumpy at the request, questioning why my parents didn't tell her the first time when she parked. She felt it was fine and didn't want to change it. She said it was wasting her time and that she was annoyed by the request of my parents, not wanting to fight again over stupid shit. I said okay, you can stay here and I'll move it. She then had the gall to tell me that when I got to my parents' house, should just move the car and not stop and talk to my parents. She also said she didn't want me to park it in my driveway when my parents said she could park it there, so, I'm on the phone with my parents when I'm driving up. My parents felt very disrespected. They said she doesn't have the authority to tell me or them where she'll park their car on their property. They also said if she wanted to dictate that, she could come to move it herself. I pulled it forward eventually, but there's more. My parents stopped me to talk to me about my GF. They mentioned that they really don't like her anymore and are at the point where they aren't really welcoming her to her home. Some of the reasons they mention they don't like her: 1. They feel she's controlling me. They feel it's always me catering to her and doing what she wants, and that I never get that same support. 2. They think that us being on the phone all the time, even when someone leaves because she wants us to feel close and together, is a bit weird. 3. They also feel she's a bit of a brat and childish and petulant, and she was really disrespectful. All in all, they don't feel she's the right one for me. What are my thoughts on this? They're not far off. I share the same ones. We've had a lot of fights recently, some of them based on how she interprets and reacts to things, as in if I don't say something absolutely gently and with the nicest of tones and loving she gets upset and thinks I'm being harsh, others based on her thinking I'm doing something wrong or that I'm being silly. I've had those thoughts before, and have squashed them to give her the benefit of the doubt, but the longer I think about it, the more I can see it. An example is my girlfriend isn't a big fan of my robotics hobby. She's told me she thinks it's boring and doesn't see the point because she thinks it's just playing with oversized toys. I was offended at this and said that's an example of not being supportive, and she said she was super supportive by going to 2 of my events, one which she was there and helped with the shit show and then left before it really started. The other because it doubled as a weekend trip for us, I feel. At times I have to walk on pins and needles for fear of not offending her or starting a fight. She says I always start them. Ultimately, I think deep down I know this relationship isn't going to work out, and even with the counseling we're going through, this shit is bound to end badly for me if we continue. After all these fights, she mentions she doesn't love me the same and doesn't know why she continues being with me since I make her so unhappy. But I know if I were actually to break up with her, she'd be devastated and angry and blame me for everything. This isn't healthy. I'm starting to have that come to Jesus moment about this relationship. I need help working out things. I need to know how do I break out of this without shit blowing up spectacularly. I'm not here to try to force a relationship to continue anymore. I just don't know how to break it to her. Update. So before I get to the update, there are some things I'd like to clear up. I know that my parents are too involved in my relationship and I address that. More on this later. However, this was the first time I ever spoke with my parents about relationship problems, and it only happened because they brought it up to me. On the other hand, I've been in the car with my GF when she's griped about our problems to her mother and her close friends like I wasn't there. Of course, she did this at other times too, giving really personal details. She just didn't respect our privacy. Also regarding the reference about us getting into a fight because she was in my room alone. I went downstairs to look for something that I needed to help her, and I also went to take out the pizza in the oven that she wanted. I told her this. She said I left her alone for an hour, and I was gone for about 20 minutes while checking out the pizza, looking for something, and helping my mom while I was there. That was it. Also, whenever she's been at my house my mom has never asked me for anything at all. This was a first, and it was because I was there next to her in the kitchen. Finally, regarding the phone call about the mailbox thing. Some people called my parents controlling, but I wouldn't because, during our time together, they never called when we were out or whatnot. They didn't even see her car until the next morning. We weren't far and the initial plan was for us to go up to the city for a barbecue festival, and move the car when we came back that day, but our plans changed when my GF said she was tired and didn't want to go. So, I did, and the cost of time for moving the car was about 20 minutes tops. It was a period in the trip where we had just come back from the pool, and with all that, let's get to the update. It's pretty short and sweet. I did it. I broke up with her yesterday. We actually had another fight yesterday. Won't go into details, wasn't severe, but the fatigue of it made me think, if we're fighting this much, maybe we're not compatible. A lot of tears were shed. And a lot came out from here that I was surprised to hear. In short, she knows she demands a lot of my attention. She says she's like a child sometimes, mainly because we're in 2 different phases of life. She's in college and works a retail job, and gets to be a college kid. I'm a guy who works a full-time engineering, adult world job. She said she struggles with that. She knows she's confrontational, but that she really doesn't mean to pick fights. In summary, she said a lot about how she's sorry and won't do things, but only now just realized what she was missing by underappreciating me and by me leaving. Don't worry, I didn't fall for any of it. I stuck to my guns and set them out. Not another chance, not one more month, week, etc. It's over. The next thing was also to tell my parents off. That went well. I was straight with them and told them that my relationships are my business and that they shouldn't be nosy. Basically, I told them in no uncertain terms that they would not be interfering or giving their advice or input unless I specifically asked for it. They were very receptive. I also told them the details of my relationship are for me and my partner only. And yes, we did fight a lot. I know it's just not healthy. We need to be in healthier relationships. I might love her, but I don't want to stay in a relationship that's unhealthy. So now I'm single, but this relationship ended. There's a lot to take from it, and a lot I can do to grow. Also, yes, I'm working on moving out. I've got a lot of friends in California and I'd like to be there by this time next year. Thank you for all the advice, everyone. Thank you for watching. For more videos like this remember to like and subscribe.